Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. What you see in the vise is a Daddy Longlegs pattern. Yes, it's that time of year again. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 12 and it's on a medium wire. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Semperfli, and it's the Nano silk at 12/0 in black. Now, as always with the Nano silks, the first thing I want to do is just get a tiny spot of super glue, and that's not so tiny, but I'm sure I'll make do, and just spread it up and down the shank. This just beds your Nano silk in, and I've got far too much glue on there, so I'll just take a little bit away with my fingers and hope they don't stick together. So I've come down about halfway down the shank and I'm going to come back up, and I want to remove my waste piece. Okay, next, now as with anything worthwhile doing, it's all about the preparation. So the body of this fly is, you'll notice the card is empty because I'm on my last little bit of this. It's from Fish On, and it's the light orange ultra dry yarn. Now it comes coiled up like this, and up in the corner of your screen I'll show you a video on how I prepare this. But what you end up with is this. So if you want to have a look at that little other video in the video, if you like, it shows you how I do this and get it to this point. Now I want to come back a little bit. So what I've got is approximately maybe 5 to 7 millimeters from the eye to where my thread's sitting, and that's where I want to catch down my body. Now lengthwise, I want the body to be about twice the length of the shank, so I can bring that in there like so, and then come in with my thread and quite firmly catch it in and tie it down. I'm then going to tilt my waste piece back and get several wraps in front. Now I say waste piece, it's not waste actually. We're going to use this again. So what I'm going to do next is, at an angle, I'm just going to cut that away. So don't throw this away, keep this little piece, and we'll come on to that in a second. Next, I'm going to get some wax onto my Nano silk. Wax still helps the tie, and just because I've used super glue at the beginning, it doesn't mean I'm still not a fan of the wax for keeping materials in place. So a little bit of wax onto your Nano silk, and we just want to cover or build an on-ramp, if you like, to the rest of that wing. Now that's going nowhere now, just give it a little twist, keep it right. Next thing I want to do is invert my vise. So I'm going to invert the vise like so. Now, not so many years ago I would just get a pheasant tail and I would tie up these myself, but what I tend to do now is spend my hard-earned money and just get the pre-knotted ones. It's just much easier, and if your eyes are going like mine, you don't want to be wasting your time tying knotted pheasant tail legs. So what I've taken is three pheasant fibres pre-knotted off the stem, and I've got them like so. So I'm just going to open them up and come either side of the hook. Now I don't want my legs to protrude past my body. I don't think it makes any difference, but that's just me. This is just how I like it. So I'm going to catch them in together now and get a couple of wraps to hold them legs into place. Now it doesn't take long to tie this pattern. As I say, it's all about the preparation. Once you've spun up your yarn, it's a relatively simple and quick pattern to tie. And is it any better than the foam daddies that you'll see? No, in all honesty, I don't think it is any better, but it's just another technique to have in your armoury, and it does catch fish. I have used this pattern, but I've got to say the foam version of the daddy, which I will include in the little video at the end, is much easier to tie and is just as effective, and I find the orange particularly good. So the little bit we took off earlier I've got in my hand here, and that's still too much, so I'm going to take approximately a third of that away. And what I want to do is trim that up so there isn't any protruding fibres. I want to come in and catch that on, which is akin to a thorax cover, but not quite the same. Again, I'm just tidying that up a little bit, getting them cut ends out the way. Don't need to be overly fussy, and I've got enough to bring that over the top. Again, just to be tidy while I'm demonstrating, I'd take that a little bit away, but there's no need. Next, I'm going to use for the wing a cock cape. Now, the better sort of standard of cock cape you've got, the better the fly will float. And now I've selected quite a big feather here, and what I'm going to do is trim it back to approximately like so. So I've got about 2 centimetres of fibre there, which is ideal. And just over my waste bucket here, I'm just going to trim that. Now, before I catch in the hackle, I'm just going to again give my thread a little wax, bring the stem in with the bad side of the feather towards the fly, and I'm going to catch that in. And again, I'm going to get quite a lot of pressure onto that. Make sure it goes nowhere. So I'm going to bring my thread approximately 2 millimeters from the eye, and I'm going to stop there because I need that space at the front. Like most fly tying, actually, if you don't leave space at the front near the eye of the hook, that's where beginners find they've got the problems. It doesn't quite sit right and you make a mess of the head. So always leave plenty of space. You can fill that space with thread or materials, but you need to have that option. Now I'm just bringing this round. It's, you know, I've tied a few of these, and this one is not behaving particularly well for me, I've got to say. So as I bring the hackle round, I'm just sweeping back the feathers because it's not sitting particularly nice for me. And I want to pack in as much as I can here, because although the ultra dry yarn will help support the fly, it's really the wing that's doing the main job. So as I get to my thread, I can come over, get a couple of turns to trap my feather in, then with my thumb and forefinger I'm going to come in, cloak the eye, and then just lock that down. And then I can come in with my snips, and excuse my fingers, remove that piece. If you catch a few fibres, don't worry about it. I'm sure the fly will still float for you. Okay, so next I'm going to come in with I'm just going to tilt the vise slightly towards me so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to use my needle to come directly down the middle of my hackle. Just going to use my thumb and forefinger to manipulate the fibres to come out. And then once I've done that, I can grab my little bit of ultra dry yarn, and bring that over. Now I've not left myself a great deal to work with here, which is not ideal, but I'm loath to throw any small pieces away. I like to get the maximum out of my fly tie materials. They cost a lot of money, so try and get the most you can out of them. So I've caught that in with one wrap. I'm going to get a couple of wraps to hold it into place, pull it back, get 2 or 3 wraps in front, and then I can use some UV resin on my thread, or you know, if you like, if you're poison super glue or head cement, you know, whatever it is you're using, it's best to get it on the thread on this fly, because you don't want to have to try and come in afterwards to whip finish the tool, to varnish the head of the fly. Better to do it now. So once you've whip finished, come in with your scissors, and then you can give the thing a blast with your UV pen. Now the ultra dry yarn will take gink or whatever poison that you like to use for floating, which helps. Once you've secured your wraps in place with the UV or super glue, you can come in and trim this bit up, like so. Okay, so far so good. And there's just another job to do, and that is, I don't want all these hackles sticking up. It won't sit right on the water. I want this sitting as flat on the water as I can get it. So to do that, I'm going to come in again with my dubbing needle, approximately down the shank of the hook. I'm going to separate them fibres, and I'm just going to pull that out. Now, there's nothing really stopping that springing back. So what I want to do is, again, you can use super glue or head cement, but you won't get the instant fix. You'll need to hold it into place while it takes a moment or two to hold. I'm just adding some UV resin. I'm holding my wing out the way while I zap it. And what this does is it makes sure that your wing stays flat, and if you bear with me a moment, I'll turn that on its side so you can see the profile. So there's the footprint of the fly, and again, before it goes into my box, it'll get some treatment with gink or floating muslin maybe on the wing, and that will float right in the surface of the water, which can be extremely attractive to trout. Now, that's just one daddy. If you prefer a much easier version, I'll stick a little link up to that fly now. If you're getting value from the videos, please give them a like, and I'll see you all next time.